The gavel banged twice, bringing the court to order. Justice Clarence Thomas sat high above on the bench, his face unreadable. His voice was cold as the stone pillars behind him when he spoke. Representative Jasmine Crockett, he said plainly, you've repeatedly ignored the rules of this court. Because of that, this body is authorized to fine you $500 million. The room went quiet so fast that even the reporters in the back stopped typing. $500 million. Even the lawyers looked at each other, not really surprised, but like they couldn't believe it. The amount wasn't just crazy high, it was like a message meant to destroy her, not just punish her. Jasmine didn't move a muscle. No reaction, no sound, nothing. Slowly, she stood up, staring at the guy who'd just tried to end her career with one blow. Are you done? She asked. The room buzzed with tension. Someone gasped. Thomas leaned forward. Excuse me, Jasmine said. I asked, are you done, sir? Because I am. She reached inside her jacket and pulled out a single, thin binder with a yellow label. Just one copy. She walked it over to the clerk, handing it over slowly like she was returning a library book. Please, add that to the documentation. The administrator blinked, surprised. What? What is this? Evidence, she said. Official statements, financial records, private letters, all with dates. Magistrate Thomas narrowed his eyes. Ms. Crockett, congresswoman. She corrected herself. Respectfully, these documents prove you have money invested in 3 of the 4 secret groups that pushed for this penalty. The room seemed to shake. A reporter dropped their phone. A man in the audience stood up, then quickly sat back down as if he'd been punched. Thomas turned pale. That's insane, he said. It's just math, simple to the links. You should have recused yourself from this, but you didn't. Now we see why. His fist clenched around the gavel. This is a smear campaign. You're trying to distract from the accusations against you. No, she replied. I'm showing everyone here what power looks like when it hides in the shadows. Sharp breaths turned into murmurs. She kept going. The public wasn't supposed to know that 3 months ago you had dinner with top executives from Will Craftoft Holdings. That 2 weeks later, a secret memo went around suggesting penalties specifically targeting me, and that the wording in that memo matches your written judgment. Thomas slammed the gavel. Silence. The silence is over. You've twisted this court, she declared. You've turned it into a weapon, but you forgot one thing. I don't scare easily. One of the court officers stepped forward. Another magistrate on the stand whispered something. Thomas shook his head. This court will adjourn. No, this court will answer. She turned to face the audience. If any of you in this room know what it's like to be told to shut up and take it, then now's the perfect time to watch closely. Because this isn't about me. It's about what happens when someone refuses to bow down to people who think they're untouchable. The audience wasn't quiet anymore. The whispers changed to words of support. A man stood up, then a woman, a line of people rising without a word. Jasmine turned back to the stand. You want to fine me $500 million to teach me a lesson? Here's my lesson. Never walk into a room where the rules are designed to silence you. Change the rules. Thomas tried to speak, but the administrator, the same one who took her files, stood up. I've checked the documents, he said. Thomas watched him. The administrator looked really bothered. They look real, complete. These claims can't be ignored. Another judge leaned in. A third grabbed the phone on the stage. Thomas's face fell for the first time. This hearing will take a 5-minute break. He started to leave, but Jasmine spoke up again. Before you go, one more thing. He stopped. That file has already been sent to the ethics board, 3 national investigation agencies, and all the main news sources. The door behind the stage creaked open. Thomas didn't move. You thought I came here to protect myself? She said. But I came here to protect the people you've tried to silence with your position. I came here for every word you tried to drown out with your power. He turned to leave. The crowd was buzzing, not with disagreement, but with understanding. For the first time in that courtroom, the clothes weren't the loudest things in the room. The truth was, Jasmine sat down, calm. Another official came from behind the stage and whispered to the remaining judges. They whispered back. One leaned forward. Representative Crockett will continue in 15 minutes after looking at the evidence. She agreed. Thomas didn't come back. Outside the courthouse, cameras were going off like crazy. By the time the 15-minute break ended, the building was surrounded. Reporters, protesters, law students with phones raised. Even some members of the legislature had shown up, quietly entering through the side door, not to speak, just to watch. Thomas tried to speak, but the administrator, the same one who took her file, stood up. Your Honor, I've checked the papers. Thomas watched as the administrator looked uneasy. They look real, complete. We can't ignore these claims. Another official leaned over. Someone else grabbed the phone on the stand. For the first time, Thomas looked shaken. This hearing is on pause for 5 minutes. He tried to leave, but Jasmine spoke up again. Before you go, one more thing. He stopped. That file's already gone to the ethics committee, 3 national investigation groups, and every major news outlet. The door behind the stand popped open. Thomas didn't move. You thought I came here to defend myself, she said. said, but I came to defend the people you've tried to silence with your power. I'm here for every word you tried to bury with your authority. He turned to leave. The audience was buzzing, not with anger, but understanding. For the first time in that courtroom, clothes weren't the loudest thing in the room. The truth was, Jasmine sat down, calm. Another staff member came up behind the stand and whispered to the remaining officials. They whispered back. One leaned forward. Representative Crockett will resume in 15 minutes after looking at this stuff. She agreed. Thomas didn't come back. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed like crazy. By the time the 15-minute break was over, the building was surrounded. Reporters, protesters, random students with phones out. Even some members of Congress showed up, quietly slipping in through a side door just to watch. Inside, Jasmine Crockett stood by a window on the second floor. She wasn't pacing. She was drinking water, one hand in her pocket, watching the crowd grow like a storm. How many cameras out there now? Her assistant whispered. Doesn't matter, she said. This isn't about the attention, it's about the record. Back in the courtroom, two officials returned to the stand. Clarence Thomas didn't. His spot with his nameplate stayed empty, gavel untouched. A different official, older and obviously nervous, tapped the microphone. We're back in session. The court acknowledges that Representative Jasmine Crockett has added new material to the record. This court has looked at that evidence. He paused. We have questions. You could feel it in the room. No chaos, no fear, but a shift. Suddenly, Jasmine Crockett wasn't the one on trial anymore. The room seemed to lean in her direction. A lawyer spoke up reluctantly. Given what's in this material, which seems to suggest a big conflict of interest by Justice Clarence Thomas, we suggest this court stop the financial penalty until an independent review is done. Gasps filled the room again, but not from Jasmine. She just nodded once, like she'd already planned for this. Thank you, Your Honor, she said calmly. I trust the process when it's fair. The lawyer tried to regain control. That doesn't mean the charges against you are dropped. She cut him off. The charges against me were written using language from lobbying firms linked to groups Justice Thomas has investments in. That's not a charge. That's a timeline. One of the younger officials leaned toward the microphone. Are you willing to give full digital access to the raw data you've already sent? You'll find a secure link in the court's email. There was a moment of silence, and the administrator, the same one from before, stepped forward again. I've accessed the link. Everything checks out. Timestamps are confirmed. She sat down again, but Jasmine stayed standing. Let the record show I didn't come here for sympathy. I came here because power unchecked becomes corruption. You don't clean up corruption by whispering about it. You shine a light on it. There it was again. The change in attitude from the audience. Not clapping, not shouting, just focus. The court went silent. The official looked down, clearly thinking about every word. The court will now put the previous decision on hold completely, pending the results of this probe. And then it happened. The doors opened, cameras flashed. Clarence Thomas walked back in, but something was different. He didn't go to his seat. He went straight to the counsel table. No robe, just a dark suit, shoulders tight. The official looked confused. Justice Thomas, this court is already in session. I know, he said. He turned to Jasmine. For the first time, the country saw the two of them face to face. No difference in height, no speaking space. This is a misunderstanding, he said. She didn't flinch. It's a system, she said, and it's not built for people like me to fight, but I fought. He opened his mouth, then closed it. You think this is going to help your career? He said, softer. You just declared war on a sitting justice. She stepped forward. No, I reminded a justice that power is borrowed, and the people are the owners. The audience stood up again, not planned, just united, like they all knew that something bigger than the law was happening. Something like justice. Thomas turned to leave again. This time, no one stopped him. He walked past the reporters, past the court guards, past the attention that used to love him. Jasmine sat down. No celebration, no smile, just breathing. The official tapped the microphone again. The court will issue a temporary rejection of the $500 million penalty pending a full review of judicial conflict. She nodded. Understood. One of the cameras zoomed in close. Her hands, calm and still, rested on the desk. No shake, no twitch, because she hadn't come for the show. She came for the change. Outside, the crowd had grown to crowds. The chants weren't loud. They were united. Power, truth, people. Power, truth, people. And Jasmine walked out through the front doors, not escorted, not protected, but followed, not by guards, by a movement. CNN broke the story first, interrupting coverage. Full screen graphic. Hashtag the Crockett Files. By the time MSNBC got it, the file Jasmine gave the court was already on a public file, anonymously sent, but digitally traced back to a secure official area. Then it spread like wildfire. News, Twitter, forums, YouTube, texts. The headlines weren't careful anymore. Did Justice Thomas violate ethics rules? The $500 million penalty that was reversed. Crockett against the court, and she's winning. Jasmine hadn't said a word. Her staff hadn't scheduled interviews, but the media showed up anyway. A wall of microphones waited outside her office by 9 o'clock a.m. sharp. She walked past them with the same calmness she had in court. No protection, no sunglasses, no staff, just her bag, her phone, and one sentence to the closest reporter. Let the the process finish before you start making movies. Then she went inside and closed the door. The city was in chaos. The Supreme Court's press area was buzzing. Staffers scrambled to dig up old files. PR teams put out bland no-comment statements. A leaked memo revealed panic inside. "We totally underestimated her," it said. "This isn't about defense, it's a strategy." Justice Thomas went MIA. Sources said he canceled meetings, ignored calls, and even clammed up in private. Word was he didn't even respond to a meeting request from the Chief Justice. The ethics panel, though, didn't waste any time. They sent out a statement. "We're launching a formal investigation into Justice Clarence Thomas regarding possible financial conflicts of interest and judicial misconduct." The Crockett papers were key to the probe. Everyone was talking about them. TV commentators repeated the phrase like it was scripture. At the White House press briefing, the usually calm press secretary wouldn't deny anything. "We believe in accountability wherever it leads," she said. That afternoon, Jasmine went into a closed-door session on Capitol Hill. She wasn't supposed to speak, but when she walked in, everyone turned to look. A conservative aide muttered, "That's her. She's the one who took down Thomas." Jasmine, without missing a beat, turned slightly and said, "I didn't take him down. He created his own mess. I just presented the facts." The room went silent. Then she sat down. Business went on, but everything felt different. Not in Congress, not in the courts, not among the public. All over the country, people were tuning in, watching something rare. A black woman standing up to the highest legal authority in the land, refusing to back down, and winning. News channels were now playing her full testimony in slow motion, pausing on her words, analyzing her demeanor. She didn't rant, she reasoned. She didn't attack, she documented. She didn't defend, she revealed. Even conservatives, some of them, were grudgingly impressed. One conservative commentator started his show with, "You don't have to agree with her views, but you've got to respect how she pulled this off." Thomas's supporters were turning on him. One senior legal advisor posted, then deleted, "We warned him. That cover wasn't going to hold, but the damage was done." Images spread like wildfire. Thomas slamming a gavel next to Jasmine, calmly handing over a file. The caption, "Authority versus evidence." A popular meme used court audio over footage of chess moves, ending with Jasmine sliding her main piece across the board. Views, 128 million and counting. But Jasmine wasn't celebrating. Back in her office, she told her team, "We don't celebrate on ruins, we move forward." "What about the depositions?" someone asked later. She said the story was still unfolding because she knew this wasn't just about Thomas. It was about setting an example. A junior congresswoman had just exposed a Supreme Court justice in real time in public without flinching. Now came the hard part, proving the court wasn't above the law, it was created to protect. The next morning, a new letter came from the House Judiciary Committee. They were launching their own probe, not into Jasmine, but into the financial ties between judicial decisions and private organizations. They called it the Crockett investigation. Those three words silenced Thomas's defenders, and Jasmine, she took to the podium for her first press conference since the hearing. "I didn't choose this fight, but I finished it," she said, "because when you sit in power and punish people for standing in truth, you stop being a judge and start being a danger." The crowd roared. The video hit 4 million views in 3 hours. Behind the scenes, in the quiet hallways of the court, Justice Clarence Thomas called his personal lawyer. For the first time in his career, he wasn't on the bench, he was under it. The summons came before dawn, marked confidential, secured, and hand-delivered to the offices of 3 Judicial Oversight Committee members, 4 advocacy groups, and 1 private equity firm registered in the Cayman Islands. The heading, National Judicial Inquiry, Phase 1. Thomas wasn't named yet, but everyone knew, especially those closest to him. That morning, 2 longtime aides cleared out their desks. One intern left a note. He stopped following the rules a long time ago. In Jasmine's office, there was no celebration, just a pile of printed emails, all marked urgent. Ethics lawyers, anonymous sources, retired officials, all saying the same thing. It's not just him. Look at the decisions from 2020. Follow the money through international accounts. Jasmine leaned back in her chair, her hands forming a steeple. "They're sending this because they trust me," she said. "They're sending this because I showed I'm not afraid to kick down the door." "You want to go after it?" her chief of staff asked. "No," she replied. "I want to burn it to the ground." But with that power came risks. That afternoon, a plain brown envelope arrived in her secure mailbox. Unmarked, coded, with a single document attached. Subject, confidential negotiation proposal. Eyes only. Inside was an offer. "If you publicly withdraw your request for Thomas's financial records, our legal team will recommend complete dismissal of the sanctions. Plus, a charitable donation of $10 million will be made to projects in your district." Jasmine read it, then sent it to Legislative Morals Workspace. No comment, nothing public, just procedure. But that silence spoke volumes more than any news clip. Within hours, the law firm that sent the message denied involvement, removed their site's contributor info, and then disappeared altogether. Back in court, things were changing. A new judge was temporarily assigned while the Thomas investigation continued. They immediately stopped any financial penalties related to Crockett's case and asked for sworn statements from the original complainers. Only one replied, and he backed out. A former member of the group that pushed for Jasmine's punishment submitted a sworn statement saying, "We were told Crockett threatened the system." Her words had to be stopped before the next funding meeting. The order came from the top. It didn't name names, but it was enough. The legal department released its first official statement of concern. With that, the mood shifted. Suddenly, lawmakers who'd been silent were posting vague statements about judicial ethics. Donors started cutting off anyone connected to Thomas's past decisions. His Supreme Court decision was questioned for the first time in real time, not by commentators, but by officials. At the same time, Jasmine walked into a packed college lecture hall and said, "Power protects itself," until someone steps up and says, "Not today. That's what I did, and I'm not done." She wasn't kidding. 2 days later, she officially requested to subpoena sealed communication records between Thomas and 3 private sector executives with ties to energy deregulation. Her opponents in Congress cried foul, calling it a vendetta and an attack on the judiciary, but the public wasn't buying it. Polls showed her support rising in every major city. Even independents were changing their minds. A new poll showed 72% of voters thought Crockett had exposed corruption in the court system. Still, the pressure was on. That night, someone left a box outside her house. No name, no address, just 5 words on a ripped piece of paper. "Keep going, we're with you." Inside was a flash drive, encrypted. Once decoded, it revealed a calendar, dates, money transfers, and travel records linking Thomas to a luxury property developer whose company had just won a contested zoning case. Thomas had written the judgment. The pieces were fitting together. Jasmine Crockett wasn't backing down. She scheduled a quick 10-minute press conference. No questions, no show. She stepped up to the microphone in a dark blue suit, held up the ripped paper and said, "I didn't come for the court. I came for clarity. And every time they try to drown us in numbers, we'll come back with names. This isn't a title. This is a cleaning. I'm not asking the system to fix itself anymore. I'm telling it, your time is up." By the time she left, social media had exploded. Tissue message, Crockett cleaning, your time is up. News anchors tossed their scripts. One commentator admitted, "We thought she was just protecting herself. We didn't know she was building a case for something bigger." Back in chambers, Clarence Thomas was told directly, "You might want to consider retiring early before this gets worse." The statement came at 6:20 a.m., typed in a serif font on the Supreme Court's website. No cameras, no press conference, just this. Justice Clarence Thomas recognizes the growing public concern about the financial allegations related to past judicial decisions. He maintains his innocence and believes Representative Jasmine Crockett is acting with political motives. But to maintain public trust in the court, he will temporarily step aside from all active cases until the ethics panel finishes its review. It didn't say resign, it didn't say guilty, but it spoke volumes. He retreated. For the first time in over 30 years, Clarence Thomas had taken a step back, and it wasn't voluntary. It was damage control. And the media wasn't buying the wording. Temporarily? Why now? One network asked. A publication wrote, because Crockett cornered him. By noon, legislative sessions were announced. Not just judicial reform, a full review titled Accountability in the Highest Court, Financial Ethics and Judicial Integrity. Jasmine Crockett was listed as a key witness. One lawmaker protested, saying she was too emotionally involved, but a senior colleague shut it down. She's not emotional. She gets things done. Inside Jasmine's office, the mood had changed. It wasn't about defense anymore. It was about action. What do you want to start with? Her advisor asked. The structure, she said. You mean the donations? No, she said, the neglect. Show how long they've been wagering on quietude. Because this wasn't just about one sanction or even one judge. It was about everything underneath. The lobbying groups, the donors hiding behind shell companies, the luxury vacations disguised as speaking engagements, all of it. This was system-wide. So Jasmine prepared. No stylists, no media consultants, just facts and passion. The night before the session, an editor at a publication posted, "We're seeing a shift in political power. Jasmine Crockett isn't disassembling Clarence Thomas. She's disassembling the illusion of invulnerability." And the numbers confirmed it. Polls showed 83% of Americans believe Supreme Court justices should be held to financial transparency laws. Jasmine's name was trending in over a dozen countries. Conservatives were divided. Some tried to link her to cancel culture. Others reached out quietly. One anonymous aide sent a message. "We should have retreated. Now she's in control." And she was. The morning of the session, she walked into Congress wearing a dark suit, carrying a single beige binder, and told the media, "This isn't about left or right. It's about who's above the law and who thinks they are." Inside the room, the audience was packed. 5 former federal judges, 2 whistleblowers, 6 foreign journalists, and a silent row of justices behind tinted glass. The first question came from the committee chair. Representative Crockett, when did you first realize this was bigger than the sanction? She looked straight ahead. The moment they issued the figure $500 million. That's not chastisement, that's coercion. And your response? Revelation. Violation? They hurled a mallet. I elevated a reflection. Murmurs from the crowd, not derision, just admiration. The subsequent lawmaker tried to unsettle her. Isn't it accurate you gained politically from the disorder this caused? She didn't flutter. I didn't generate the disorder. I unveiled it. Do you think this will damage the tribunal's reliability? It's already damaged. The inquiry is, will we sanitize it or keep letting it decay? Inhales sharply again. Some jotted messages. A conservative lawmaker cleared his throat. Representative, you've been charged of coordinating a personal revenge. No, she stated. I coordinated a public evaluation, and if Justice Thomas is absolved, she inclined forward, then he should return. But until then, we treat him the identical way we treat anyone else under probe, because if he's not resistant to proof, then no one should be resistant to responsibility. As soon as she finished talking, 2 more requests for her to appear came in. Jasmine walked out of the meeting and into the bright sunlight. Someone in the crowd yelled, "They're scared of you!" She turned around for a second and said without stopping, "They should be scared of what staying quiet costs. I'm not paying that bill." At 2:34 a.m., a rough, muffled audio file, 47 seconds long, was posted anonymously on a coded platform. It quickly spread to forums and social media, and within 20 minutes, a political source got a hold of it. The caption said, "Clarence Thomas confidential tactic gathering June." The tone was clear. "She thinks this is about her. Let her keep going. We'll bury her in so much noise that no one will hear the truth." Another voice chimed in, "And the penalty is a trap. Hit her hard, make her look greedy, and then watch her give in." The audio ended with quiet chuckles, then silence, and the internet blew up. Thomas recordings. The trap. Crockett was right. Within an hour, 2 audio analysis companies confirmed it. Verified. The voice matched Thomas. No signs of editing, no manipulation of the data. News outlets dropped everything. Live anchors started rewriting their scripts. "You're telling me this wasn't even about the law. This was a trap, a story trap, and she didn't fall for it. She turned the whole thing around." By morning, the court's press office put out a statement. Justice Thomas denies the context of the released audio. He claims the clip is misleading and taken out of a full strategy meeting unrelated to any specific case. But no one believed it. Not after 5 weeks of requests to appear, resignations, and now this. The ethics panel called an emergency meeting. Legal observers demanded a release of all internal court communications from the past 6 months, and Congress released a letter. If the recording is real, then the court knowingly used disciplinary actions against an elected official to undermine national transparency laws. The reaction wasn't just legal now, it was huge. At the same time, Jasmine sat in her office, scrolling through headlines. Her communications director leaned in. "Everyone wants a comment. Networks, international news, newspapers, you name it. Tell them to wait," she said. She wasn't being cocky, she was being careful, because what no one knew was that she already had the full recording. Not just 47 seconds, but the whole thing. 61 minutes, clearer audio, multiple voices, even a date and time. "Release it?" her chief of staff asked. "Not yet," she replied. "Let them double down on the lie, then we drop the bomb." Across the city, damage control had turned into full-blown panic. Several judges held a secret conference call. One source revealed the situation. "She has the people. We have the power. And right now, the power isn't working." In the next news cycle, 3 more connections came to light. Thomas's wife had bought stock in a company that campaigned against Crockett's latest transparency bill. A group that supported the disciplinary action received overseas transfers disguised as donations. A court memo from 6 months ago called Crockett's increasing voice a threat to national stability. And then Jasmine made her move. She walked into a media room packed tighter than ever. No teleprompter, no speech, just one statement, the recording. "You've heard the preview. I have the whole thing. And guess what? There are more than 2 voices." She inhales sharply, clicks a halt. "This wasn't just about targeting me. This was about teaching everyone a lesson. If you speak out too loudly, they'll force you into silence. I won't release the rest of the audio. Not yet. I'm giving them 48 hours to tell the truth. Not to me, to the public, because if they don't, I will." Then she left. Didn't take a single question. Didn't need to. Crockett timer immediately started trending worldwide. The complete recording, 48-hour deadline. Justice Thomas released a second statement, visibly shaken. "The legislators' claims are exaggerated. Any further releases will be considered altered and vengeful. That was a mistake, because now the media didn't just want the full recording, they demanded it. And within 12 hours, calls for his resignation came from inside the court itself. An anonymous justice told a newspaper, "He's weak. He's putting the institution at risk with every day he stays quiet." At the same time, Jasmine's approval rating hit a record 78% nationally. Requests poured in for her to lead a new legislative task force on judicial ethics. And inside her strategy room, Jasmine paced, not worried, just focused. "They thought this was chess," she said, "but it was poker. We called their bluff." "No," she said, looking at the wall. "We made them show their cards, and now they're folding." The counter hit 0. 48 hours, no retraction, no apology, no regret. Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. At exactly 9 o'clock a.m., Her office released the full recording. 61 minutes, high quality. 3 voices. 1. Justice Clarence Thomas. 2. A senior strategist from a national conservative political group. 3. A well-known Washington lawyer with ties to several court-related cases. The recording wasn't just damning, it was strategic. Thomas, this sanction isn't about guilt, it's about making her toxic. Public opinion. Ruin her reputation before fundraising season. She'll yell. Let her. The news cycle forgets in 2 days. And then Thomas again. We break her spirit before she builds an audience. She's too clean to smear, so we use process as a weapon. Make her fight ghosts. The last 30 seconds were the worst. Thomas, even if she wins, we delay. Delay means she wastes political capital. She wins, but she's weak. But Jasmine wasn't weak. She was fired up. The moment the file dropped, 5 legislative leaders held an emergency press conference. This is judicial corruption, one announced. A betrayal of public trust, another added. We will move to suspend Justice Clarence Thomas pending a full criminal investigation. It was huge. Never before had a sitting justice faced such unified bipartisan criticism. A network cut to a stunned anchor. People were watching the fall of a barrier many thought was untouchable. Across the country, people tuned in. Short video creators played the recording over clips of Supreme Court justice scenes. Hashtags topped global charts. Crockett recordings, Thomas defeated, justice under investigation, and Jasmine. She wasn't giving interviews. She wasn't doing victory laps. She was in meetings briefing legal experts, coordinating with civil rights groups, preparing legislation to finally force financial disclosures from every Supreme Court justice going forward. The court was falling apart behind closed doors. 2 administrators resigned. 3 justices reportedly held a secret vote of no confidence. The Chief Justice released a statement. We are deeply concerned by the recent revelations. The court cannot fulfill its role when one of its members appears to have violated core ethical standards. Inside Thomas's group, things were falling apart. A lead consultant quit. His ex-legal assistants wrote a letter together, blasting his behavior. Donors started pulling their cash from legal groups linked to him. That night, Jasmine's team got a coded message from someone with pull in the court system. You did what years of rules and pressure couldn't. They always protected each other before. The next day, a group in the legislature planned a vote called Temporary Stop to Judicial Power, Response to Ethics Violations Bill. Everyone just called it the Crockett provision. Jasmine got asked to speak first. Wearing a dark blue outfit, she walked up to the mic with no notes and waited for quiet. They tried to shut me up, but failed. They tried to confuse me, but I found my way. Now, we speak not just for those they tried to silence, but for everyone who saw the rules only apply to those in charge. Power with no responsibility? That's not order. It's crushing people. This vote isn't about me. It's about what happens the next time someone thinks they can abuse the law. The room exploded with a quiet roar of support. She walked away slowly, and someone whispered she changed the game. The vote went 387 to 48. Clarence Thomas got benched while they looked into possible crimes. Jasmine left with no smile, just a statement. We're not done. The system isn't fixed yet, but we showed it can break. 3 days later, Thomas was gone from the court. No press, no goodbye, just a dark car, a quiet exit, and a sealed box handed to the Chief Justice. Inside was a note. I ask for a leave of absence, no end date. For the first time ever, a Supreme Court justice got taken out of the game, not by law or choice, but by the people. And Jasmine Crockett was at the heart of it. She didn't throw a party or brag on TV. She turned down every interview, even the ones offering big money. Instead, she went to a closed-door ethics meeting with lawmakers from both sides, judges, and even some people from the group that used to support Thomas. She laid out what needed to happen next. This doesn't end with one justice. It ends when we take apart the system that let him get away with this, quietly, legally, and for good. The mood was serious, but everyone knew she was the real deal now. After that, things changed fast. A new rule said every judge, even on the highest court, had to report gifts and assets 4 times a year. A new group with the power to investigate got created, and a public online record showed money decisions and who was involved right away. They called it the Judicial Transparency Package. People called it Crockett's Law, but Jasmine said it was delayed. In the days that followed, the country started talking differently. News people started talking about judicial power with urgency, not respect. Students updated their papers. Civics classes used her speech as case studies, and images of Jasmine holding a binder next to a silent picture of Thomas went everywhere. She brought evidence. He brought issues. Companies started making mugs. 500 malnumber sanction. 0 fear. Short videos showed dramatic recreations of the court, ending with Jasmine's quote, I didn't come for revenge. I came for proofs. While social media called her a hero, Jasmine stayed low-key. She went back home, met with organizers, and held meetings in churches and community centers. At one, a young woman asked, how did you not break? Jasmine smiled and leaned in. I did, but only in private. Then I built something stronger out of the pieces, and you could hear it in the silence of the room. The moment everyone realized this wasn't just about fairness, it was about strength and legacy. That same week, the Chief Justice made a rare public statement. The Supreme Court has always been separate from the pressures of popularity. clarity. That time, as of today, is done. Behind the scenes, more people fell. 2 administrators quit. 3 longtime lawyers got called in. A big law firm that had tried to hire Jasmine earlier got banned from government work for 10 years. The Justice Department opened new cases. Clarence Thomas got sent to the National Investigation Bureau. But Jasmine released a 10-word statement. Let the rules do what they never expected it to. She didn't need a title because everyone knew who changed the rules. Months later, she got recognized at the National Archives, not with an award, but with a framed copy of the original $500 million sanction. It hangs in a special display called Muted. Not this time. People see the sanction, then a piece of her speech, then a timeline of everything that happened, and next to it, a small sign. This woman got the biggest sanction in legislative history. She turned it into the most sweeping judicial change since major scandal. She didn't just fight, she changed the game. And still, Jasmine said very little. In her last speech, she looked across the room and said one thing that hit hard. If they come for you with power, answer with evidence. That's what I did. That was it. No mic drop, no ego, just truth served cold. Because that's what she had become. Not a politician, not a rebel, but a reminder that even the highest court still lives under the law. And when it forgets, Jasmine Crockett is there to remind them.